Today I'm going to talk about performing under pressure. When there is tension, when there's pressure, when there's uncertainty, cortisol is released. We miss things, we make mistakes, we make bad decisions. A culture will not be high performing if people aren't willing to take risks. And that last 8%, it's really the gap between the risk you know you need to take and the risk you are taking. Key differentiator for you in your own performance and growing your business and building clients will be emotional intelligence. When people feel their leaders are more empathetic, they're more willing to step in with new ideas. That becomes a competitive advantage for you, for this team, for this organization, and quite honestly, it can make a huge difference in your personal lives. I'm going to quote Warren Buffett. You probably didn't think I'd quote Warren Buffett in a pressure and emotional intelligence presentation, but he said if you have an IQ of 150, sell 30 points to someone else. You need to be smart, but not a genius. We have a lot of clients who have a family culture, and they'll proudly say they're a family culture, and we'll say, you are not a family culture. You can't fire your lowest performing kid. You might want to, but you can't. There are lots of positive things of a family culture, right? There's care, there's trust, there's connection, so there's lots of positives, but without the risk taking, without the tough conversational decisions, it can't be high performing. So that's really the approach I'm going to take here are there some insights about your emotions and your emotional brain that you can learn to help you perform under pressure. So what you do, how you show up in those last 8% moments is what establishes your reputation. And thanks to all of you for listening and letting me keep you away from lunch. Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. What is it that gets in the way? Well, it's this thing we call the last 8%. Okay, so what is the last 8%? It's the hardest things that we have to do in life. We're all pretty good at the 92%, but when things get difficult, like a difficult conversation, when you're in that conversation, you've got difficult news to give someone, and you get 85, 90, 95% of the way there, and the other person starts reacting as you get to the difficult part. And we know emotions are infectious, so we get infected by their reaction. In our research, 68% of people in that situation will avoid. They'll step back. They won't really finish and say the last part, that last 5 or 10% that really needed to be said. But we fool ourselves that we had the conversation. The other person thinks we had the conversation, and then we wonder why things don't change. Now, we took this concept and we did a study of 34,000 people and determined that on average, it's 8% that people feel they leave unsaid in a difficult conversation. So that's where the 8% comes from. Then as we workshop this, people said, well, it's not only difficult conversations that I face, there's the difficult decisions. There's the easy ones where I'm not taking a risk or everyone's going to be happy. But then there's those tough ones where I don't know what's going to work out. There's those tough ones where someone's going to be upset or not like me. And I know when I was first learning this, sometimes I would let whoever was going to scream the loudest if they didn't get their way influence my decision because I just didn't want to deal with that. Again, I would let emotions affect my decision. So there's last 8% conversations, there's last 8% decisions, and there's lots of last 8% moments. For example, there was a survey done where people were asked to rank their top fears. Guess what their number one fear was? Public speaking. They ranked that over death. Seriously. Now, I've always thought if you took a gun and pointed at someone's head and said, get out there and speak, they'd probably go out and speak, but it's a perception. So for many people, any form of public speaking is a last 8% moment. Here's one for you. How about receiving difficult feedback? We want others to receive our feedback, but if we model it, if we get defensive or we shut down and we're not open, we're not modeling it very well. So there's many last 8% moments that we face. It's those more difficult ones. And what's at stake? Why am I talking about these last 8% moments? Well, they're more important than others. They have an outsized influence on your reputation. Again, whether you're a formal leader, whether you're an informal leader running projects, whether you're a subject matter expert or you're a vendor trying to sell. And we know that they have an outsized influence because of the cortisol effect. What's the cortisol effect? Well, that is that when there's tension, when there's uncertainty, when there's pressure, cortisol is released in the brain, which causes memories to sear in. So people remember how you showed up in that difficult moment. They don't remember what you were doing in the 92% of moments when everything was going well and everyone's getting along. They remember those last 8% moments. That's why sometimes you can do something right 9 times out of 10, but that one time you messed it up, that's what she remembers. I mean, that's what everyone remembers. Yeah, guys, you get it. So this then becomes your reputation. That then is what's modeled. So that's then how culture gets established, which we'll talk about in a moment. But these last 8% moments, they have a greater impact on your leadership, on your reputation. And how we show up in those moments models. For example, my teenage daughters, when I'm yelling at them to stop yelling, all I'm doing is modeling for them that you yell when you're frustrated. So how we show up in those last 8% moments has a much greater impact on what people remember about us and how they're impacted by us.